often uses about Fox News, was over this, I mean, everyone here knows about it, was, over a deal I'd done with Obama that Trump wanted to renege on. Anyway, and we had a huge, blazing row where I basically said, you've got to stick to your word, and Trump said, come on, Malcolm, you're a businessman, you must have reneged on deals. I said, no.
In this video, we're about to see something rare. A former prime minister openly admitting how he handled Donald Trump while so many world leaders failed. Malcolm Turnbull doesn't just talk politics. He shows the strategy, exposes Trump's bluster, and even gets a laugh or two while doing it. But behind the humor is a serious lesson: power, respect, and how to stand your ground with someone who thrives on intimidation. Before we dive in, comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Turnbull's first clash with Trump came over a deal struck with Obama. 1. Trump wanted to scrap. Trump said, come on, Malcolm. You're a businessman. You must have reneged on deals. Turnbull refused. He told him flat out, my reputation is my word. That phone call was fiery. Trump even claimed it was worse than his talks with Putin. But here's the twist. By refusing to bow or flatter, Turnbull won Trump's respect and secured outcomes for Australia that others never could.
Miss the next one.
Australians forget that in the imperial capital they regard deference as their due. So if you go to Washington, or indeed to Beijing, or in the old days to London, and you grovel and carry on and suck up, they just say, oh, that's great. Is it time for the next sycophant? Surely he's had his 10 minutes of sucking up. It is crazy. You win no respect at all. And of course with Trump, who is like the ultimate narcissistic, blustering bully, it is the worst possible thing to do. Now, I was very lucky with Trump in this sense that my first engagement with him, or enragement with him, to use a fabulous Joe Stiglitz word that he often uses about Fox News, was over this, everyone here knows about it, was, over a deal I'd done with Obama that Trump wanted to renege on. Anyway, and we had a huge, blazing row where I basically said, you've got to stick to your word, and Trump said, come on, Malcolm, you're a businessman, you must have reneged on deals. I said, no. No, he did. That's exactly what he said. Said, no. I said, ask your friends. We've got friends in common. My reputation is being a man of my word. I've got lots of other bad things people say about me, but people generally haven't said that I'm untrustworthy in that regard. So I made this point to Trump anyway, and so the conversation began, no way, Jose, and ended up, yes, I hate you. Yes, but I hate you, basically. So he did. He said the call was worse than the one he had with Putin. Although, as I later learnt when I saw them together, he really loves Putin. So it's a bit complex. But the point is, by standing up to Trump and not, doing what they were, American side were back channeling us to not raise the issue, I won his respect and I was able to get some very good outcomes for Australia. And so, you read all this stuff, particularly in the Murdoch press, about how you've got to have an ambassador that sucks up to Trump and you've got to flatter him. That is all bullshit, believe me. I mean, I promise you, there are a lot of leaders at the time Trump came in who did exactly that and they got nothing. The only way to deal with bullies is to stand up to them. And the thing that an Australian Prime Minister knows when they go into a room with an American president is that they're the one person in the White House the president can't fire. So all his staff, they've got to be careful because the boss can go, oh, I'm sick of you telling me what I don't want to hear, you're out. Okay, and that's what Trump does. But if you're the Prime Minister of Australia, the only people that can sack you are your colleagues back home, which, of course, I'm very familiar with the process. But so it's really important. It's really important for Australia to engage, from a position of strength. I mean, there is a complexity there. I'll just conclude on this point. that Albanese has to recognise, and I had to too, that the sort of right-wing media ecosystem here, mostly News Corp but not entirely, is basically, Trump is now the central sort of avatar of that universe. And so if disagreement between an Australian Prime Minister and Donald Trump, they will side with Trump.
Yeah.
So, but that is no reason to do anything other than be absolutely strong, play a straight bat, and of course, needless to say, the last thing. Trump got really bad press when he had this tantrum with me. It really did not help him, and I think he was very conscious of that. As far as our ambassador, the Australian government appoints the Australian ambassador to Washington, and just like the American government appoints the American ambassador to Canberra, and the idea that you'd be taking direction from the White House as to who our ambassador should be. I mean, declaring an ambassador persona non grata is a big deal. That's the kind of thing you do to the Russians when they're spying on you or something. So that isn't going to happen. So, Albo, whatever people think of Kevin, and, I've had an up and down relationship with him. We're currently in love again, but it's been patchy, I'd have to say. But the Albanese should stick with Rudd, and he'll and just be very strong and play a straight bat.
What Malcolm Turnbull showed us is something a lot of world leaders still don't get. You don't win Donald Trump's respect by flattering him. You don't win it by bowing down or pretending to be his biggest fan. You win it by standing firm, by showing him you won't be pushed around. Turnbull proved it in that first fiery call. Trump wanted out of a deal. Turnbull refused. And in the end, Trump had no choice but to stick with it. That's how you deal with a bully. You don't grovel, you hold your ground. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Too many leaders, both then and now, still act like Trump's approval is worth more than their own country's dignity. They treat him like a kingmaker, and every single time they walk away empty-handed. Now think about the few who didn't cave. Canada pushed back. Even Greenland refused to play along when Trump floated buying their land. And Turnbull? He put it plainly. Strength earns respect. Weakness gets you nothing. Trump is more than just a politician. He's a test. A test of principle, of character, of backbone. Do you fold when he yells? Or do you play it straight, call his bluff, and protect your nation's interests? Because let's face it, Trump thrives on turning world leaders into props for his show. A smile, a handshake, a flattering soundbite. That's what he wants. And that's what so many gave him. But Turnbull didn't. He showed the only winning move is to stand tall, even if it means a blazing row. That's the lesson here. Never trade your country's dignity for a photo op. Play it straight. Hold your ground. And remember, respect doesn't come from flattery. It comes from strength. Stay sharp, stay informed, and as always, thanks for tuning in.